All righty, Pastor Mark and Grace here. If you got a question, send it in to hello@markdriscoll.org. We're trying to help marriages and families during a very complicated season. This question comes from someone named Nick. Don't know if it's a boy or a girl. Spectrum these days, very complicated, very confusing. Said, thank you for your video on forgiveness. Powerful, extremely helpful. Done a lot of videos on forgiveness. Not sure which one that was, but it is crucial to Christianity. One follow-up question, and I'll summarize it. So married couple, spouse had an emotional affair with a friend. Somehow this got exposed. I don't know if they confessed or got caught. And now this person is married to someone that they have forgiven and a friend that they have forgiven for having an emotional affair with their spouse. But the friend and the spouse want to continue the friendship, and the spouse that was offended, was sinned against, was violated. They're struggling to allow that kind of friendship to continue. Their question is, it feels unwise, and have I really forgiven them if I don't want that friendship to continue that went to an emotional affair?
That relationship should not continue because it is too much of a temptation, and they need to rebuild trust with whoever Nick is, and they aren't going to be able to trust until they see that that boundary is clear and that your priority is back on the right person, your spouse. And so,
let me ask you this. Let's say it sounds like Nick's a guy. For a woman that crosses lines of propriety within a marriage and is emotionally, relationally, deeply connected to another man who's not her husband, how seriously should a husband take that?
very. Yeah. I mean, it's not something to play around with. And women need the emotional relationship. That's what they need the most. It's a priority for them. And so if they've put that into another relationship,
all the fire alarms should be
the Lord
pulled.
sees that as adultery
Well, it's adultery of the heart.
of the heart.
Because Jesus talks about not just adultery of the hands, but adultery of the heart.
So he needs to take it seriously. And it's not that, yes, you have got to forgive, and I commend you for continuing to work on that, and it's an ongoing process. You forgive one time, but then you continue as you're reminded of it, or as they remind you of it, or the enemy tries to haunt you with it. You continue to forgive. But that doesn't mean that you can't say, I don't want that relationship anymore in our lives, because we need to work on why we're broken in the first place in our marriage and invest in that, and can't do that with this person lurking in the background.
Well, and what I would say is, if it's a friend who's having an emotional affair with your wife, that's not a friend.
Exactly. That's right.
So the myth is we're friends. No, anyone who emotionally connects with, pursues you, sets up a private communication channel, which is how these things happen, that does not include me, is being covert and sneaky. You just moved out of my friend category. Right? You moved into at least foolish or evil. So there's three kinds of people, according to Proverbs: wise, foolish, and evil. They're not wise. What that means is they're either foolish or evil. And the Bible has a lot of negative things to say about doing life with foolish people and or evil people. And what I would say as well, as if they don't honor your marriage enough to maintain healthy boundaries with your spouse, you may forgive them, but you cannot trust them. Forgiveness is free, trust is earned.
That's right.
And the most important relationship after our relationship with Jesus is our relationship with each other. And if anyone should get in the middle of that and cause division, disruption, then that relationship is not the priority. Therefore, it needs to be reprioritized. And I think you're right, honey. I think it's looking at the relationship saying, what was the underlying problem that we had in our marriage that left this need unmet, that you would pursue it elsewhere and invest all of your time and energy in sort of healing up whatever that lack was. I'll ask you something controversial. Is it possible for a woman to have a deep emotional, relational connection to a man that doesn't result in sexual intimacy?
Not unless it's like her dad or something, that's a familial relationship.
Yeah.
No. I don't think so. I think you are dancing on fire.
I think you're dancing on a grenade with a pin pulled.
Yep.
And I would say for a man, what I say is very, very, very controversial and 100% true. And that is that men who are pursuing deep emotional connections and relationships with a woman, it has an end zone of adultery. It just does. I don't know any guy who just wants lots of deep emotional connection that has no physical consequence.
Right.
And so maybe it's the spirit, maybe it's my jaded personality. I would say anyone who says, I have had a deep, profound emotional connection and emotional relational affair with your wife, but don't worry, we didn't do anything physical, I would be very skeptical. Now, I'm not saying that they're lying, but I'm saying that they're probably lying. And what I'm saying is, if they didn't cross that line, they were going to, and maybe they got caught in God's providence before that crisis. But adultery of the heart leads to adultery of the hands. And out of the overflow of the heart come the decision of the hands. And so if the heart is inclined toward an adulterous emotional relationship, I'm just telling you that the direction and trajectory is a physical relationship that is also adulterous. And if that's the case, I'm sorry. I love you. I forgive you. I don't trust you. You need to move on with your life. We need to heal our relationship because forgiveness is free. Trust is earned. Forgiveness can happen in a moment. Trust is built over time and it's lost in an instance, especially with something this significant. And so what I would say is you've got a relationship that's in crisis. And I don't believe it's selfish at all to say, this is not healthy. We need to get healthy. And so, if you're in that situation, and a lot of couples now, you're home together, you're getting more time together, you're dealing with past issues, and you're also then surfacing past hurts that need some healing. And so we hope that's helpful. And if you're going to err on the side of not divorcing, not committing adultery, and not breaking your covenant union. If you're going to err on the side of preserving this, even if it should be at the expense of something else. And so if you got a question, send it in to hello@markdriscoll.org, and we'll do our best to help.